If you've chosen this video, you've chosen to do the vertical blocker instead of the horizontal blocker. This is similar to the horizontal blocker challenge, fairly straightforward. It is challenging, but there's no real new material in this one. So if you haven't seen the horizontal blocker one, I would try that first. This is a vertical blocker for you to get used to it, and what's going to happen is we're going to have an enemy, a blocker, which is going to go up and down here, trying to block Mario from coming through this gap here. The first thing I'm going to do is take a look at this block that we coded before. So you should have managed to get yourself to activity 7. In activity 7 you should have different costumes for Mario, or 4 costumes for him, so he faces different ways when he's running. You should have these scripts, and you should also have several different levels for your maze, and it is important that you name things. It's important that you call this maze, it's important that you call this player, and it's important that each one of these is given a name for the level. That just makes it easier in our code to identify what we're doing. And our code will get rather large, and you will need these visual clues to help you. So let's get back to Mario and the scripts. In this block here, this is our starting block. This is setting things up. It sets up the game. So we know where Mario starts, and we put him in the start position. We change his costume to facing down, and we set the speed of Mario throughout the game to 5. Now this block is what happens when I press the right key, the left key, the up key and the down key. And this down here where I'm touching something, and what I want to do is really just have one block of code for the keys and another block of code for things that I touch. So in this case I'm touching the maze, but later on I might be touching a blocker, or I might be touching the end, or I might be touching coins, and I'm going to have a whole block of code just to manage the touching part. So I'm going to start that now. I'm going to drag out a new on click, or when click event. I'm going to get a forever, which means while the game is running, and I'm going to drag the touching maze into there. It's going to do exactly the same thing. There's absolutely no change to my code whatsoever. I've just split it up so it's easier to read, easier to find things. So if I run my game, you'll see that Mario goes down and up, right, and when he touches the wall he goes back to the start. Okay, so that's just tidying up the code, nothing new there. What I am going to do is create a new sprite and import some new costumes for it. So I'm going to create a brand new blank sprite, and I'm going to name my sprite, and this one, because he's going vertical up and down, I'm going to call it VBlocker, for vertical blocker. There we go. And what I need is some costumes for it. So if I import costumes from a file, if you go into computer science year 8 or year 9, whichever the case may be, term 1, lesson 3, you'll find some graphics there for you to use. And the end letter on this one this time is down, left, right and up. Because we're only going up or down, we only need 2, so I need the down image, and I also need to import the up image. So now I have my 2 costumes, one facing me and one facing away from me. So this is down, this is up, and I have a blank costume there which I can just delete, and these are already named. So I need to put him in position, so I'm going to have him there because he's going to wander up there and he's going to wander down here. He's just going to block Mario coming through that little gap there. So let's get into the code. So the code for my blocker, I'm going to use a lot of variables. I'm going to use variables for the direction he's moving, whether he's moving up, whether he's moving down, and what speed he's traveling at. I'm going to create these variables now. So if we go to data, I can make a variable. Now they are all just for this sprite only, so make sure you put a little tick in that box there. So the first one I'm going to create is called direction. Got a variable for that. And if I take the tick out of the box, it will disappear from the screen over here. I'm going to need another variable called left, again for this sprite only. Please make sure you do that, otherwise things will not work as you intend. So there we go, take the tick out of the box. I need another variable called right. Okay, and one last variable I need is speed. Now we had speed for Mario himself, but because we are using it for this sprite only, the speed that is on this sprite is actually different to the speed that was on Mario. So they are actually different variables. I can show you that. If I put a tick in the box here, it says player speed. Okay, and if I go to the vertical blocker and put a tick in the box, it says vertical blocker speed. So they are different, even though I've used the same word. So I've now got my variables, and what I need to do is set things up. When we were with Mario, we did this. We set up his starting position and we set up his costume and how fast he was moving, which sort of was a one-off thing when we started the game, when we clicked it, and then we went through their loops that just keep going through, checking what's happening. So I'm going to do a startup for my vertical blocker. So if I go back to my vertical blocker, what I need is when clicked, and I've got him in position here, and if I check, I've got the values here, 199 minus 27. That's where I want him to start. So if I go to the motion, the go to is 199 minus 27, just what I needed. If these numbers here are different, you'll need to type in the values that you see here. So I'm going to place that, so that's what's going to happen. I'm going to start him there. Then I'm going to set up my variables. So I'm going to set my speed to 2, so he doesn't go so fast. I am, well, not as fast as Mario anyway, because Mario's going at 5. So basically Mario could outrun him. The next thing I'm going to do is set my up and down. So set, I've given them the wrong variables. Silly me. Make a variable for this sprite. It should be up, and another one, make a variable for this sprite going down. Easy to make mistakes, so I can actually get rid of these variables here. I can delete the right and I can delete the left. There we go, that's better. So I can change my variable here to up to be 0. I need another one for down, set down. All it needs to be is a different number. It's just to signify that up is different to down. And that's it. And then I need to set what's happening at the very start. So at the moment it's at the bottom. I want him to be moving up. So I'm going to set the direction that he needs to move to be up. And obviously I need to check that he's facing the right way. So for example, if I've done that, that's his down costume. So I'm going to do that in code by changing his costume to up. Okay, so when I click the green flag, he goes to the place, he turns around, he's facing up, he's ready to move. The next thing I need to do is actually move him. So I'm going to get more code blocks. Let's just stop that program. When clicked, I'm going to have another while the game is running, another forever. And in here, I'm going to do the same that I did with my Mario. I had what's happening when he's going right, what's happening when he's going left, what's happening when he's going up, what's happening when he's going down. I'm going to have sort of these two, up or down, but we're not going to press any keys. It's going to be automatic. So we have to do a little bit of coding, a little bit of maths to make that happen. So going back to my blocker. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is manage the situation when he's going down. So what I need is an operator, because I need to check if he's going down, if the direction at the moment is in downwards direction. So if direction is equal to down, and then that fits into that little block there. So if the direction is down, so in other words if he's coming down, what I need to do is change the Y value. So if I go to motion, I need to change the Y value, and just like with the player, if I go over to the player, we changed the down direction by speed times -1. We've got to do exactly the same thing here. Okay, so if I go to the operators and pull out a time sign, I can put in my speed variable and type in, whoops, it's not in, there we go, and type in -1. So change Y by -1, that's exactly the same as the player now, but it's not on a key press. So there's my first one. I could duplicate this code block. In fact, I probably will. Let's see. Duplicate it. There we go. That saved me dragging loads of things out, but I do have to change one or two things. And the first thing I need to do is change the direction from down to up. So if he's going up, then I need to change his Y value just by speed. Exactly the same as we did with the Mario player. So here's what's happening when he's going up. His speed, changing Y just by the speed. So it's the same thing. If I join those two together and drag them into the block, there we go. I've got some code. I can run it and he should move. So he's going up and he's gone straight through the maze and off the screen. So I'm going to have to check that now and make sure that he sort of turns around and comes back down. So really what I want to say, if he's, let's just drag him down a little bit. If he's travelling up, if he's touching the maze and he's going up, I need to turn him around and make him come back down. And I can do that with some code. I can have another if block. Now this is quite challenging, so you'll have to follow along with me. We need something that says and. If he's touching the maze and travelling in a direction, so we need both of these. If I drop that into there, so the first one is he touching the maze? I'm checking to see if he's touched the maze, and I also need to know what direction he's going in. So on this one, if he's going up, so I need the up value. That won't fit into there because they're different shapes. So I need to have the operator as we did before. If his direction is going up, so if the direction is going up, there we go. So if he touches the maze and he's travelling in the up direction, then what we need to do is turn him round. So we need to set his direction to down. Okay, so we've turned him round. We need to change his costume so that he now faces us, so he goes in the downwards direction. There we go. And finally, what I want to do is just bounce him a little bit away from the maze. If I don't do that, he's always going to be touching the maze and he will never move from that position. You might like to try this without the next statement to see what happens. I'm just going to type it in so you can just follow along if you want. So to bounce him a little bit off the edge, I basically just need this one here, change Y by speed times -1. Because I'm going down and they are negative numbers. So what I need to do is find the change Y by, and then get more operators. Lots of practice at doing this. So we need the times operator, and in there we need speed, and we need to times it by -1 and drag that into that block. Okay, so that should now work. As he's travelling up, he should hit the maze, turn around and then start travelling down. So let's run the program, see what happens. There you go, he's running up, touching the maze, and he's turned around, he's coming down, and he's gone straight through the maze. So we need to do the same thing that we did here, but for the other direction, for when we're going down. We need to turn him so he's facing up, and then we need to change his speed again. So let's drag out another if block. We could duplicate this. I'm going to go through it all so that you know where things are. So the first thing I need is the and, because we're doing two things. We're checking if he's touching the maze and moving in a direction. So let's go and get the touching maze. Whoops. Get a little overexcited with that. There we go, put it in there. Touching the maze, and we need to check whether the direction is equal to down. And the direction is equal to down. It's exactly the opposite of this one. Okay, instead of up, we've just got down. Place that in there. And we need to do exactly the opposite here. So set the direction to up. Set the direction to up. We need to switch his costume, so he's looking upwards. Switch costume to up. And finally we need to change the Y by just speed this time. If you remember when we were on player going up, we just changed Y by speed. So let's go and get that. Motion, change Y by and speed. Job done. Put the blocks in. Now we should be completed. We should have our movement for our enemy. So let's click the green flag. Let's see that happen. He's going up. Touching, he's coming down. When he touches the maze, he's going to turn around and go up. Perfect. The only problem I've got is if Mario's in the way, he just goes straight through Mario. So we've got to add some code to our player Mario to make sure that when the sprite or the enemy touches him, he goes back to the start. Well, we've also got this already. I'm now on player, and I've got another block that I need to do. In fact, it's virtually identical. I could just duplicate this by right clicking, click duplicate, and if touching VBlocker, place it in there. That will do the job. Or we could just drag out these blocks and fill them in, but let's keep it short this time. So now everything should work. So if I press the flag, there it goes, it's going up, it's going down. Let's say Mario's there, bang, he goes back to the start. That is our job done. So just take a moment to try and understand what is happening, particularly with all the variables. I know it's confusing, I know it's challenging, but hopefully you're beginning to get some sort of understanding of how it's put together. You could try one of the other challenges. They are more challenging, particularly the next one, which is managing levels up. I'm going to be doing that without the enemy, and I'm also going to be doing a version with the enemy. So if you want to move on, that's your next challenge.